Navajo Code Talkers. Introduction. Steady gunfire. In February 1945, a battle was raging on the South Pacific island of Iwo Jima. Bullets from a Japanese machine gun nest rattled the air as bombs exploded. Navajo Code Talkers were part of a U.S. Marine Corps battalion fighting the Japanese. As bullets whizzed by their heads, the Code Talkers sent messages between troops and different parts of the island, such as "Need bulldozer on Green Beach immediately," and "Receiving steady machine gun and rifle fire." Marine commanders got the message and sent a bulldozer to Green Beach. The bulldozer knocked down barriers built by the enemy. A group of Marines attacked the machine gun nest. The enemy gunfire stopped, and dozens of U.S. soldiers were saved. The U.S. Marine Corps had invaded Iwo Jima on February 19, 1945. 6 members of the Navajo Nation were part of the fighting force. The Navajo were there to transmit radio messages in the secret code based on their native language. During the next 5 weeks, the Navajo Code Talkers worked night and day under brutal combat conditions. They sent more than 800 messages about Japanese troop movements and enemy fire. The fight on Iwo Jima was one of the most important battles of World War II. The United States had entered the war after hundreds of Japanese fighter planes attacked the U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii on December 7, 1941. More than 2,000 American soldiers and sailors were killed there. Some of the bloodiest battles between the U.S. and Japan took place on the Pacific Islands, such as Iwo Jima, Paluna, and Okinawa. Japanese forces had taken over such islands so they could launch attacks against American ships and planes. If the United States could build military bases there, it would be easier to fight nearby Japan. The Navajo Code Talkers and their secret code played a crucial role in every Pacific battle. Chapter 1. A Talking Tradition. The Navajo people are a nation of American Indians. Most of their reservation is in the northeast Arizona and New Mexico. The U.S. government forced the Navajo to move to this part of the country in 1864. The Navajo endured racism, poverty, and efforts to erase their traditional culture. Navajo people were not considered U.S. citizens until 1924 and could not vote in Arizona until 1948. Much of the Navajo culture is based on the oral storytelling. Before World War II, the Navajo language had never been written down. The people did and still do memorize and tell one another everything they need to remember or to keep safe. Even the details of raising and selling sheep, an important trade for the Navajo, must be memorized and spoken. Every Navajo child hears stories about the creation of the world. Parents and grandparents speak of animal spirits that look like eagles and coyotes. Children as young as 3 years old learn to repeat the stories word for word. As children grow older, the stories they learn get longer and more complex. Ideal code for a language. Telling and retelling stories prepared Navajo Code Talkers for their role in World War II. Since Navajo people were trained to memorize traditional stories, they'd be able to create and remember a code that would eventually include more than 700 words. The Navajo language was a perfect starting point for a secret code. The language had never been written down. Only 30 people who were not Navajo could speak the language. This meant that the enemy in Japan would never understand Navajo speakers. As Navajo Code Talker Chester Nez explained, the language was not written. It could not be learned from a book, saying even one Navajo word is nearly impossible for someone not used to hearing the sounds that make up the language. Joining the Marines. Philip Johnston had grown up on the Navajo reservation in Arizona. He was not Navajo. Johnston's parents were religious missionaries who worked among the Navajo people. Johnston was a veteran of World War I. During that war, we heard the success of the Choctaw Indian Code Talkers. Choctaw soldiers had successfully used the Choctaw language and sent coded messages during battle. In 1942, Johnston suggested that the Navajo could perform the same service for the Marine Corps. He sent up a demonstration for several Marine Corps officers. The Navajo showed how they might send coded messages in their Navajo language. Their officers were impressed with the results. The Marine Corps recruited 29 Navajo men for a top secret, potentially dangerous project. The young men did not know it yet, but they would soon create and use a code that was impossible for the enemy to understand. Chapter 2, Creating the Code. In 1942, the Navajo recruits were sent to San Diego, California, where they were trained as Marines. After completing basic training, they were told that their secret mission, inventing a code. The Navajo then spent 6 months working and creating and learning a complex code in their native language. Each letter of the English alphabet was given an English code word, starting with that letter, such as the names of common animals, plants, and objects. The English code words were then translated into Navajo. The letter A became ant, then Walachi in Navajo, B became bear or shush in the Navajo language. This system allowed the Navajo speakers to speak out English words in a code the enemy would never understand. The Navajo also invented code words for common military objects. The Navajo word for hummingbird was used to describe a fighter plane. A battleship was a whale, a hand grenade a potato, and a bomb was an egg. The Navajo soldiers memorized hundreds of these terms. They would need to use their code on the battlefield without error. Thousands of Marines were depending on them. The Navajo code was meant to replace a code-making machine called the M209. The military used the M209 to create the code, send it, and decode messages after they were received. The Marine Corps tested several Navajo speakers to see if they could match the speed of the M209. The M209 took 30 minutes to create and send a code. The Navajo soldiers did it in only 20 seconds. Chapter 3, Into Battle. In August 1942, thousands of Marines invaded the island of Guadalcanal to fight the Japanese. Japan had taken control of Guadalcanal, along with several other islands in the South Pacific, in the months after Pearl Harbor was bombed. The Marines were able to gain a foothold on Guadalcanal and build a military base. U.S. soldiers used the base to launch attacks on Japanese forces that controlled the small island. Thousands of soldiers on both sides were killed in battle. Destroy. The Navajo code talkers played a significant role in the Battle of Guadalcanal. The Navajo soldiers worked around the clock in teams of 2. They set up communication outposts with two-way radios known as SCR 300s. The code talkers received messages written in English from the Marine Corps commanders. The Navajo mentally translated the messages into code. Then they repeated the message into the radio to a code talker on the other end. Nez recalled the first coded message he sent from the battlefield. Enemy machine gun nest on your right flank. Destroy. In Navajo, Benata Tosi Akai Adoi Atoi Nishna Ji Go Da Dai Kai Adi Tai. Another team received the message. U.S. artillery destroyed the Japanese gun nest within minutes. Seeing action. With the help of the code talkers, the Marines defeated the Japanese on Guadalcanal in February of 1943. After this success, the Marine Corps recruited more Navajo and trained them to speak the code. By the end of the war in 1945, more than 400 code talkers had served in some of the fiercest battles of World War II. No one was ever able to crack the code created by the Navajo code talkers, a rare feat for a code used in battle. During the first 2 days of the Iwo Jima invasion in February 1945, the code talkers worked for 24 hours straight. They sent and decoded more than 800 messages without error. In every battle, the heroic deeds of the code talkers gave the U.S. forces an edge. In March 1945, the Marine Corps achieved victory at Iwo Jima. As Major Howard Connor said after the fight, "Were it not for the Navajos, the Marines would never have taken Iwo Jima." Chapter 4, Honoring the Code Talkers. World War II ended when Japan surrendered on August 14, 1945. The cost of the victory was high. More than 100,000 American soldiers had been killed while fighting in the Pacific. Among the dead were 13 Navajo code talkers. Many of the code talkers received medals for acts of heroism, but after the war, the Navajo soldiers were not allowed to tell anyone about their life-saving code that they created. The military wanted to keep the code secret in case it was needed again. Nez was told by his commanders, "When you get home, don't tell your people, your parents, your family. Don't tell them what your job was. Don't talk about it." The code talkers kept their role in the war secret for more than 20 years. Then, in 1968, the government declassified the code talkers program. That meant it was no longer secret and the Navajo could tell their stories. In 1971, 69 World War II veterans formed the Navajo Code Talkers Association. The group marched in parades, visited schools, and talked about their role in the war on radio and television shows. They defeated the enemy. In 1982, President Ronald Reagan named August 14th National Code Talkers Day. Reagan called upon the nation to join in tribute to the Navajo war heroes. In 2001, the Code Talkers were awarded medals for their special service. The original 29 were given Congressional Medal gold medals. A message on the back states, "With the Navajo language, they defeated the enemy." The Navajo Code Talkers became role models for young American Indians, for the people everywhere. As Code Talker Samuel Tost explained, "I was fighting for the Indian people, all the people in the United States, all that we had."